Seahawks fans, I got good news for you. We got to talk about what one of our rising stars had to say in an interview when he's talking about his injury recovery and the impacts that's going to have on the Seahawks this season. What's going on, everybody? Christian Pedersen back with another episode of Seahawks Digest, the show that is spoiled rotten, that even in the off season, every news is seemingly coming up as good news. Really, the Google alerts that I've got set, I'm waiting for the first bad one. It's going to happen eventually, knock on wood or whatever, but you get what I'm saying. If you want to follow along as I react to all that good news, the show is going to bring you daily content, good, bad, and everything in between. As I'm telling people, Seahawks Digest, it's a new show. We're going to be straddling the line between fandom and journalism, and that includes things like reacting to Riley Mills giving an interview talking about himself feeling fully back. And if you want to follow along with that, you can hit the subscribe, like, dislike, comment. All of those are YouTube buttons that I'm supposed to contractually get to, telling you about in the first 2 minutes. Okay, so fully back to who he was before the ACL injury, if not somewhat slightly better. Riley Mills, a fun part of the defense. I don't want to call him a key part of the defense, given that we didn't see him until later in the year last year because he was recovering from an ACL injury. But for those of you that maybe weren't following along, every single play, every single everything, here's sort of the cliff notes on what his season was last year. He played from week 14 on, getting his first couple of tackles in weeks 16 and 17, but then his first career sack was in the Super Bowl, getting to the backfield like a freaking pro. And so we saw the little bits, the little pieces that this is why we drafted him out of Notre Dame and what we thought he could potentially be for the Seahawks defense. But the sample size, I think, was small enough at the same time last year that it left me, and I think a lot of us, questioning, what do we really have here? ACL injuries are no longer death sentences to players, and him being young and coming back from it, we're like, okay, there's a lot of good to feel here, but what are we like? Is this going to be somebody who really grows and blossoms into the same impact player at the pro level that he was at the college level? And it seems that following up his limited participation in the season, but his positive participation in the season last year, OTAs have been going extremely well. Here's what we got him to say, though, or here's what he was saying in this article, this interview he sat down for. Pretty interesting guy. Good soundbite. Not everybody gives a good soundbite, but here we go. Quote, I think through the process, I think a lot of people would have broke, Bill said. I think it would have been a tough thing to deal with, having an ACL injury like what mine was, and I think a lot of people would have quit or not seen the light at the end of the tunnel. He did not quit. He saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and he... To get through that rookie year injury and all of that, certain level of mental and physical toughness, certain level of mental and physical drive from him. And he's saying that it was a lot tougher than he thought. Continued on the quote, just think I'm mentally tougher than I thought, and I think I was prepared for it. And so one thing I learned is that no matter the obstacle or the challenges, it is just one day at a time, and the opportunity may not come tomorrow or the next day, but eventually when it comes, you're going to be ready for that. So, okay, this kid passes the check, yes? We all use the different checks. For some, it's the sniff test, the eye test, the gut check, the feel, the vibe. A lot of different options about what verb you want to use there. But am I wrong in saying that you kind of know when a guy has that it factor, that next gear, that something to kick it into when playing at high levels of any sport, but specifically for the NFL, the mental toughness to go through the battles is something that I don't want to say that I prefer people who have been heavily tested, but you kind of at the same time prefer people who have been battle tested and have come through the other side. A lot of times there will be guys who come out of college having been a 4 or 5 star recruit, best guy on their high school team, and now with NIL, just people, all sorts of people in their camp just blowing smoke up their ass, telling them that they are God's gift to football. And then they show up in college, and it's hype, and very few college programs or coaches really will cut a guy down to size. It's a lot of what can they do for us while they're here do for them? And then they get to the NFL and it's like, whoa, that guy all of a sudden massively fell off. And it's like, well, yeah, because he went from always being the dude and surrounded by assets that can help him win to playing for Cleveland, or to, being in a situation where he has to be a 22-year-old now guarding Miles. Like, you get what? So they regress, and then it takes them 4 or 5 years to get to where they needed or where they should have been at year 1 or 2. And thus they never fully reach their NFL potential. And this feels to me vaguely of a heavy dosage of test and all of that compressed into one season for Riley Mills as he battles through this recovery from an injury, then winds up in a very immediate sample size, understanding what happens when you put in that direct work. And that is you get to be out there contributing for a defense that ends up winning the Super Bowl. And I say defense, I should have said team that ends up winning the Super Bowl, but some of you have really commented that the defense is what won the championship, or at least got to the championship. And that front seven for the Seahawks last year, allowing the fewest rushing yards and being in the top 10 in almost every other statistical category in the NFL, I think deserves, at the very least, a 51-49 slice of the credit for getting to, if not winning, the Super Bowl last year. And so to have a guy who, even though he only played for the last couple of weeks of the season, because I'll remind you all again, This was weeks 16 and 17 were the first tackles. That could in and of itself have been enough. Or pat himself on the back, say, "Hey, look, we did it. Awesome. I got in. I got a tackle." But no, he wants more. He was hungry. He ends up getting that sack in the Super Bowl and showed some definite key playing. So to me, I put it up another notch now this season in terms of the expectations about where this kid can go and thus where the defense can go. And credit to Schneider and the coaching staff and the medical staff and everybody keeping this kid's head straight, keeping everybody on mission and on program and on task, and getting us to this point where now year 2, we're at OTAs and we're talking about a kid who is really about to continue that already upward trend into another level. And I think he's going to be fantastic this season. I'm calling it breakout year. He could be, I don't know if you can still get rookie of the year if you technically already played, but you know what I'm saying. He could be the breakout star of this Seahawks defense. So let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Till next time, we'll talk to you guys soon.